The Honest Money podcast is brought to you by Prescient Investment Management. We consider everything to give you the advantage. It's the future of investing. Prescient Investment Management is an authorized FSP.
Welcome to Honest Money. I'm Warren Ingram.
Pieter Villiers.
This is the final episode of our series on investment vehicles, and we just as a refresher, in episode 1 we did retirement funds. Episode 2 we did tax-free savings accounts, and then the last one was around discretionary investments, which includes endowments. And so today, I mean, they were all fun actually. I enjoyed recording them and talking about it, but today is maybe the real fun one, because now we've had all these different pieces of a puzzle. Now we've got to put it together and come up with a picture on the box. Yeah. And what's interesting about this is that, I mean, we're all unique. So our pictures are not always going to look the same. And there isn't necessarily one mix or one recipe that will suit everybody. And maybe the last point here is this is the world of money, and it's tied to both markets and humans. So I'm not sitting on the fence, but I am going to tell you that there isn't only one way to achieve an outcome. And so, you know, that Pieter might have a view on something and I might have a slightly different view. And what's interesting is if you had to draw a graph, our views would do this, and then eventually we might end up at the same goal. And both of us thought we were right, and we ended up at exactly the same point on the same day. Yeah. And that's money, right? So there isn't only one way. And I think you've got to be careful when you are an investor, definitely, and when you're on our side of this, on the side of the microphone. Number one, be humble. Number two, know that you don't necessarily have all the answers, and that actually this isn't an exam. There might be many answers to the same question. And that's okay. Don't get confused if you speak to people. They've got a bit of a different way. You listen to the show and you go, well, hang on, but I would have done it a bit like this or a bit like that. I think the key is get started, stay invested, keep going. Don't panic, stick to the principles, and you'll get to where you need.
Yes, absolutely. It's personal finance because it's personal. Every person has its own circumstances. We've got our own ways, different cards that has been dealt to us, especially the way we grew up around money. That influences the way we decide on what to do with money today as adults. And, we are different stages in life, different income levels. So there's never, at school, they taught us, there's only one memo. It's only one answer. If you deviate, you're wrong. This is different. This is life. This is real life, a real world. There are different ways to skin a proverbial cat. We're not skinning any cats today.
And we like cats.
Yeah, we animal lovers. So no animals have been hurt during the production of this episode. But we want to make sure that we have the information so that we can make informed decisions based on our own circumstances. So because they are so, it differs widely on the different stages in life, I thought maybe let's cover 3 case studies. So first case study is someone between 20 and 35. Second one between 35 and let's say 50. And then the third one between 50 and 65. So I thought I'm going to create like a fictional scenario, and then let's chat about what we'd consider at that point in life, because I think that will help us to understand, based on who you are and where you are in your life, what you could consider at that point. Because a 20-year-old will look different to a 60-year-old, vastly different, the strategy. So I think maybe that's a way to try and unpack it.
I think it's a great one. I can't remember what I was like at 20, but I'm sure it was terrible.
I'm also starting to forget. I'm getting hitting the big 30 soon, so it's tough. Cool. So let's play the first scenario. So right, between 20 and 35. So this is now in your life. Let's use the case study. I've studied. I've got a degree. I'm starting to work. I'm still single. So maybe I've met someone, but we're not married yet. I'm earning a salary. Let's say I earn a salary of 30,000 Rand a month before taxes. All right, I'm just making stuff up here. I'm in the, my tax rate is 28%. Just like for example purposes, I am able to save and invest 6,000 Rand per month from my salary, right? So I'm very conscious. I've got my spending plan. I know how much going out, how much is going out, how much is coming in. All right, I'm able to save 6,000 Rand per month from my salary. How would we approach that without having kids, without having a spouse? It's just me, myself, and I. How do we now take our retirement fund, tax-free savings account, discretionary investment, and endowment? Which one do we choose?
So I'm going to give you the same answer to each of the categories at the start, which is there are 3 steps to financial freedom as far as I'm concerned. So you've got to be debt free, then you've got to have an emergency fund, and then you've built up your investments, and your investments should start taking care of you at a point in time. So we're hoping that this person has no debt, because that's the trick in something like this. But if they have credit cards, personal loans, overdrafts, I mean, my view is that you start out of your 6,000 a month, you might allocate 2,000 a month to start building up emergency fund, but the other $4,000 you're chucking into your credit card and killing that.
Yes. So debt, are you referring to short-term debt, car loans, home loans? How would you kind of approach
home
it?
loan is fine. I'm happy that we kind of pay off home loans at a slightly faster than required. So if your home loan is meant to be $5,000 a month and you're putting in 6, well done, it's fine. Car debt is a tricky one. So I don't like car debt, and I always want to get debt free, and I think often the interest rates are high there. So if you're paying prime -1, on your car debt, you're one of the lucky few. You pay it off in the required time. If you're paying it off at prime +2 or prime +3, I think that's very close to flipping credit card or personal loan punitive. So then I would say to you, pay it down and never do that again.
Yeah.
But so I think car debt, unfortunately, isn't a clear answer one way or credit cards, personal loans, overdrafts. Those are growing against you at 20 to 25% a year. Something's growing against you at 25% a year. It's gonna double in about 3 years if my math is simplistically correct. So there's nothing in the world that grows that fast at a guaranteed rate. So you have to kill it. Not exciting, not fun to talk about, but that's what you do. So let's assume that's out of the equation now, right? So now you've got $6,000. I might differ from you a little bit, because what I'm going to do is take all 6 and I know about the tax benefits, but I'm going to put all 6 into my emergency fund. What I want at the very least is I want my emergency fund, before I start investing, to get to 3 months worth of my expenses. In an ideal world, you might want to make it 3 to 6 months, but actually just 3 months is a target. And I'm not doing anything else until I've got to there. Why? Because I know that if I don't do that, Murphy's going to arrive, and Murphy's this little idiot that messes up with your life when you think you've made plans. So, and with all respect to people whose surname is Murphy. And so just to say that I know the moment I've got my emergency fund, I'll probably never have to use it ever again. But without it, something's going to go wrong.
Yes.
So I'm going to get my emergency fund, and then I'm going to go Harvey's 3 a month into my tax-free, because that's the most I'm allowed to do. 3 a month into my retirement fund. I think that's about 10%. If you're earning 30,000 a month before tax, then you're I'm going to get caught out on math somewhere along in one of these scenarios. But then you're contributing 10% of your salary. So you're starting to get some kind of a.
Yeah, I agree. Like so for before even thinking about any of these investments, you have to have those fundamentals in place. And I'll read to those that you mentioned. You have to have a budget. What does that mean? You need to know where your money is going and what is coming in. So whether you use an app, there's that I think Vault 22 is an app. It used to be 22/7. That's automatic. You connect your bank accounts, you get your statements, you can see where your money is going. If you want to put up your own Excel sheet and Google sheet, you can do that. Ask ChatGPT to help you with the formulas. You need to understand where your money is going, because it's no point in us saying you need to invest 15% of your income if you don't know what you earn, or if that's not even going to be possible for you because you're spending too much. So you have to live below your means from early days. Even if you don't earn a lot, you need to get used to the fact that some of your money needs to go away. I would say generally, if you start out 15% of your pre-tax income. So pre-tax means gross, not gross like you, it's gross before tax. It is quite gross because we pay tax, it's less than what I thought. But so, if you earn 100,000 Rand, that's 15,000 a month, 50,000, that's 7,500. So at least start there. If you can start there, that's a good way to look at. And yes, so I like to think of income as kind of like with a fire truck, you get those big hoses where there's a fire, they take it out and they just the water just sprays all over the place. So that's your income. So now you use that to extinguish first of all, debt, like you said, short-term debt, credit cards, pay that off. Trying to build wealth with too much short-term debt that's now interest rate of 15% plus. It's like trying to drive a car with the handbrake in the upright position. Like you'll move, but it's going to be slow and it's going to be painful. So kill that off. Next step, build that emergency fund. So first, to understand how much that emergency fund will be, if we say 3 months expenses, you need to know how much you're spending. So that goes back to the budget. You need to go look at your expenses and do the calculation. What I would say there, I would kind of, let's say you have debt and you don't have an emergency fund. I would first build up 1 month's, or at least let's say 10,000. Let's use this case, 10,000 Rand in savings first. Then I'll focus on the short-term debt. Once I'm done with that, I'll go back to the emergency fund and build it up. Because if there's no buffer, you focus on paying off debt and you have emergency, you go deeper in bad debt and you kind of never get out of that cycle. So that's kind of one deviation that I'll do there. But then, right, let's focus on getting 3 months of emergency saved up. So the full 6,000 goes to that. Yes. Then done with that, cool stuff. Next step, got 6,000. I agree. 3,000 to a tax-free, 3,000 to a retirement fund. If you are employed and they offer like a provident or pension fund, that then takes the 3,000 into that retirement fund. So then you don't necessarily have to open a retirement annuity because you're already kind of doing the same thing. But then go ask your HR employee benefits broker which funds are available for that provident fund, and go look at, because maybe the default is like a conservative low equity thing and you're now 20 years old. No, you want high equity for the long term. So make sure you take that step to make sure you are invested. And then that's it. So that's 15% of your income. Maybe you earn more than 30,000. In my mind, I would say always the first 3,000 to a tax-free, and then the balance of that 15% to a retirement fund at the start, trying to hit those numbers. If you can do that, then obviously you also need to go look at the fund to choose, the platform, the fees. All of that we covered in the other 3 episodes that you can go watch. But yes, I agree. If you can start early on in life, live below your means, save 15% into retirement, split it between these two, and now you get salary increases over time. You also increase your retirement contribution. So don't always keep it 15% relative to what you earn, because you're going to earn more over time. Then don't spend, you can also spend more, but then also contribute more. And if you can continue with that 15% gradient over time, then hopefully you will probably not be part of that 94% people that can't retire. Because the biggest benefit you have when you're young is you've got time, and time can compound. So yes, I agree. That would be my...
And you know, so the phrase for that you were talking about is called lifestyle creep.
Yes.
And so just, you know, if you can, what you do is, let's say you get 10% raise. We're not saying that you have to live like a kind of a proverbial student for the rest of your life. So if you get a 10% increase, allow your expenses to go up by 4%. Because then, and if you do that every year, I mean, we're not always going to get a 10% increase every year. But if you allow your salary to rise faster and significantly faster than your expenses, it means you are living an incrementally better lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah.
And that difference between your now bit of a better lifestyle and your much higher income is getting saved. And so that's how you start to get to that financial freedom much more.
Yes.
So I like that idea very much. I think maybe also just the flip side of this whole thing is, if you're 20 and you are working, the parents are going to hate me here, but I would also say stay at home for as long as you possibly can. Why? Because maybe you've got to chip in a little bit of rent to the parents to pay for a bit of food and stuff. By all means, do that. But you're keeping your lifestyle costs incredibly low. So actually, like, if you can, you know, start out where you're saving 30 or 40% of what you're, because you're staying at home, and that, just, if you do that for 3 or 4 years, yes, everyone wants to be independent and go out and live their lives, and that's great. But gee, if you can go out and be independent, 3 or 4 years after starting work with a serious amount of money already saved, that's already compounding for you, what a great start. So I'm sorry to the parents who wanted the kids out the house faster, but if you're listening and you can do that, go for it.
Yes, and I also caution you at that age, don't rush into buying a new car because you feel like you deserved it, you've studied hard, and now you want to drive a latest BMW. That's going to
nothing wrong with BMWs.
Yeah, Using an example.
He's just having a go at the BMW driver.
If you want to go buy the latest Toyota Hilux Bucky, be careful, because if you go and buy something you can't really afford, I mean, a dealership will sell you anything. I guess you can also buy a Ferrari. You're just going to pay for 3 generations and have a massive balloon payment. Be cautious of that, because if you do take out that car loan, you're going to pay for that car for many years, and that's going to eat into your discretionary money, which you should have been saving and investing, and fun money to go on holiday. So rather, if you look at buying a car, if you're 20 years old, you shouldn't expect to drive a Lambo. I mean, honestly, you probably can use a car at home, or you have to buy a car, buy second hand, be humble, drive something small and feel efficient for many years. And later on in life, as you progress, you can upgrade. But just, I see that often happening too often, when people buy too much car that they can afford, and then they can't invest anything. And really, those initial couple of years of your career where you could invest is going to mean so much to you long term with the compounding effect. So car is nice, but having a lot of money when you're older is also much nicer, I think. Having a comfortable retirement one day is going to mean much more to you. So just be cautious. If you don't earn a lot, yes, it's going to be tough to save 15%. But if you are young and you were a student, I mean, I survived on 2-minute noodles in a dormitory that was like 20 square meters, if even, and I was fine. Nothing happened to me. So you can continue living like that for a couple of years if you have to, just to get into the game. And then that's a great time. Start learning about money, listening to our videos, buying books, and educating yourself. Your best investment will always be in yourself. I'll always say that, in your own knowledge and your own experience. Okay, so
before we jump to the next one, I'd love to hear from comments from people around this.
Yes.
To get what their experience has been, if they've already gone down the road, or if they're about to. Do they think they can buy into our view? Is mine better than Pieter's? Love to hear.
Maybe put it to a vote. Yeah, maybe you have different views. Share it with us. We're all here to learn together and to share our experiences. So let's go to the next phase. So now we've got 35 to 50. So now at this point, let's say we're married, we've got young kids. So 1 year and 2 year old kids. We've now bought a house, we've bought cars, so we've got a home loan, we've got car loans, we've got kids' education that we have to think about. We've got our own retirement. Expenses have shot up now that we have kids in the house. We're earning well, we're maturing in our careers. We're kind of like at the senior levels almost. So earning well, but a lot of the money is going into different regions. We're kind of like in that sandwich generation. It's retirement here, it's kids' education here, and we are hovering in the middle, trying to figure out where do we go. So in terms of what we earn, it now shoots up. So let's say we can still invest 15% of our income, but let's say now we've got 15,000 Rand a month that we can invest. How would we now, what steps would we follow then?
15 that we can invest.
Yeah, so 15,000 in savings basically a month.
I'm going to call this stage of life the juggle. It's there was a Guns N' Roses song called "Welcome to the Jungle." This is "Welcome to the Juggle." Because the point here is you're going to have lots of balls up in the air, and the truth is, step one, this is just get relaxed and get into the psychology couch, because you're not going to be able to achieve every single objective. You're not going to have enough time to spend enough time with your kids, with your spouse, and on your career, and you're going to feel like something being compromised somewhere. The same applies to money. You're not going to be able to afford the very best education at the most expensive school and save the maximum amount that you can on your long-term and your short-term savings and buy the nicest house and the best car. It's just not possible. So just understand that you are allowed at this stage of life take things a bit easy. Somewhere along the line, something's going to be doing better than the other thing, and that's okay. So give yourself a break. It doesn't mean that we're saying you mustn't save and you mustn't invest. That's not true. But we're just saying you can't hit all the goals. And I think a lot of people in this stage of life feel like this huge pressure, and they feel like they're failing because they're not hitting every goal. And so this is honest money. This is the time to be honest. You can't hit all at once. You can hit them over time. And we're not talking about this isn't a sprint race, to use that stupid cliche. This is a very long comrades marathon that you're in. So there are times when you go through bad phases in, up steep hills. This is where you are. So having said that, I think that if you're maxed out at your emergency fund, all you want to do once a year at this stage of life is check your lifestyle costs, check what it costs you to run your family now, and make sure that your emergency fund is tying up with that. If you have a home loan and you've paid down some extra money into that home loan, by all means, store your emergency fund money in the home loan. Just check that most mortgages are access bonds where you can put money in and take that extra money out. Just make sure that that's true before you go and store your emergency fund in. But paying extra money into your home loan at this stage of life, if you can do it, is a very good idea. Certainly the place where I want my emergency fund to be. I'm just going to cheat a little bit and say also that if you've got a lot more extra money in your home loan, it might also be the place where you refinance cars. By now, you've been in the game for quite some time. Hopefully, you've stopped buying new cars. You're buying secondhand cars that are 3 or 4 years old. So when you trade in your old 15-year-old car for your new 3-year-old car, and there's a difference in price, you might want to then between the trade-in value and the current value, and there will be, then maybe you take that out of your home loan, that extra money. Remember, keep your emergency fund, and you finance your car that way. But I would not be financing new cars at this stage of life. And then I think building up your retirement funds. So that tracker, we've covered it in episode 1, 27.5% of your taxable income. So you don't want to over contribute to retirement funds. I don't like the complex formulas that come after that. I want to do my maximum contribution and know that I'm doing that. It's 27.5%. You're at the juggle stage of life, so you're probably not doing 20%. So I think if you can, that range is about 10% of your total or your gross salary to 15%. Is a good number. You should definitely be maximizing tax-free savings contribution, so 3,000 a month. The balance of the money you can then invest for your long-term in the discretionary. I like allocating that money to my overseas capital. So I want to build up that balance between, if I've got a house in South Africa, earning my salary in South Africa, and I've got my retirement funds, which are, let's say, half in South Africa, then I would like to build up a overseas allocation, and I use my discretionary. So that will probably be where I would be doing a monthly debit order into a rand-denominated overseas investment, whether it's a feeder fund as a unit trust or an exchange-traded fund, I don't mind, but build that up, and then every X couple of years actually send that to foreign.
Yes, I agree. It's balancing everything in life, and yes, you can't have everything, but you can prioritize in what's the most important. So I would say in terms of the emergency fund, because you're now married and you have kids, I'll bump that up to 6 months of expenses just to give extra buffer, because now there's four people and 4 mouths to feed, and if you lose your job, you want to have enough time to be able to get to a new job or to start something new. And 6 months just add buffer to that. And if you have a home loan, I agree. If you park it there, it's gonna lower the interest that you have to pay totality on the home loan. I'll caution you just there. You have to be disciplined then to know that, all right, well, I've kept track of what I've added to my home loan, and this is for emergencies. This is not to now take for an overseas holiday, because it's now easy. It's getting blended into the other stuff. It has to be clear. This money I don't touch unless I have to. And yes, if you have cars and the car's interest rate is 13% and the home loan is 9%, it makes sense. That differential you can save, rather use the home loan to buy the cars, but also don't use that to fund lifestyle assets. Don't feel like you have to replace your car every 2 years because you have a home loan, because then you're going to never pay off the home loan. You have to be disciplined and keep track of that, but financially that would make sense. Retirement, yes, I think, if you are now been part of a company for many years, you'll probably be contributing to those provident funds. If you want to top that up with a retirement annuity, maxing out your tax-free for you and your spouse, that's great. For kids, you're probably now going to pay for their school fees, and that's probably going to come for the budget. But if they're like 1 year or 2 year old, it's important to start thinking about their tertiary education as well. And the earlier you start saving for those costs, the better. Because education fees, if we say inflation is 5%, education is usually 8%, and medical expenses is 9%. So it escalates quite rapidly, and the earlier you start, the better. To give you an idea, if you start saving for a kid on their birth date for like a 4-year tertiary degree, probably looking at already saving about 1,500, 2,000 Rand per month when they are born. If you start when they are 5 or 10 or 15, it's going to be much higher. So that's now when I would say, right, cool. In my opinion, an endowment will work well for that if you are above the 30% tax bracket. If not, a normal discretionary investment, you can keep it in your name, then you'll have full control over that. And when they get the age of 18, you can cash it out, or you can even open it up in their name and say, like, this is your money for your education. You're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Just know at the age of 18, they've got legal rights on that. So then they can use it in whatever way they want to. So it's deciding between the two. It's not that much of you have to put in too much thought on that, but start thinking about the education. Again, can't do everything. Maybe you can't add extra to the home loan and max out your tax-free and your RA and your kids' education, and that's okay. Don't feel too pressured to get everything done, because now expenses are higher and there's a lot of stuff going on. At some point, kids will be out of the house and you'll have extra cash flow to then invest, which will kind of take us to the third phase, which is now going into, I don't know if you want to
I'm going to throw you a curveball. So the one thing about money with people who are disciplined, what I've realized just from time is when you say to parents of young children, set aside money into an education investment. So it's in your own name. It's not the child's name. You build it up. It's quite weird how those disciplined parents never touch that money. So they get to university age, and that's why they save that money for that child. And then they go, no, it's okay. I'll just keep funding those expenses myself. And I'm not saying that they're always doing the right thing, because sometimes they're not saving enough for their own retirement at that point.
Yeah.
So you've got to know yourself quite well here, because if you are that kind of a parent where you feel like, well, I set this aside for my little child, and now my little precious is 18, and I should maybe give this to them later in life when they want to buy a house or something. That's okay if you're fully funded for retirement. Yeah. It's not okay if you're not fully funded for retirement. So if you are that kind of a parent, where I mean, and it's not a criticism, it's just knowing yourself, then actually what I would say is delay, and I know it's controversial, but then delay the saving for the child's education and put that extra money into your retirement fund, actually, but also into the home loan. Because what you're doing is, let's say your home loan repayments are like 50 grand a month. If you can put more and more money in there, by the time your child gets to age 18 and your home loan is nearly paid off, that's 50 grand a month of cash flow that you've got.
Yeah.
That you can then fund university. If you're going to fund the university anyway, then get your life debt free as fast as you can. Yes. So it's not it's not a critique of the proposal that you've given. It's just that the parents are the problem sometimes in this situation. They don't want to take money away from their child, so they take money away from themselves.
Yeah. Yes, it's something we always touch on is you have to take care of yourself first, and when your child gets to university, yes, there's probably you want to fund that, but if not possible, they can get a loan, they can get a scholarship. There are options for them. If you reach retirement, you don't have enough money, your options are very limited. Yes, you can continue working, but maybe you are unable in your profession to do so. So rather make sure that you are, if you can, it's great, it's good, you can do it, but if not, be careful not to overextend yourself to the detriment to your own future, because then you will become reliant on your kids, which is probably the last thing that you want in any case.
And them as well.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want that.
And then if we move into the third phase, and let's say now that phase in life where it's between 50 and 65. So still married, kids are now done out of the house, done with university, and we now very much in the high levels of our careers. We're very highly skilled, earning very good money, and expenses has also now come down because the mouths are out of the house. How would we now approach things at that point?
It's a weird stage of life, because you often find that we've spoken about the sandwich generation, but we've also got the boomerang generation. So this is where parents educate their children, send them to university, they go off to work, and then they come home for some reason and they're stuck again. Sometimes it happens because they've been listening to Honest Money and they realize they should stay at home because it's cheaper. Or it's because they lose their jobs or something like that. So it's a weird stage where you think the kids are out the house and then they stay in your life. So be careful of that. Uh, and then I would say you probably want to you're starting to visualize retirement, and it's not a concept that's going to happen to someone else anymore. Now it's a real thing. Most of us, it seems around about that age 48 to 50, we actually start to be able to visualize ourselves as retired people. So now all of the financial education that you've heard about, this retirement one day, it starts to become, well, one day is not so far away. And so what I would start to do now is I would start to create a vision of what that looks like. In other words, where would you like to stay one day when you're retired? Do you know the town? Do you know that potentially the house? Do you understand what your cost of living is now? Because it's time to reset again. Do you need to stay in a very big house? If we've used your example all the way along, it's 2 kids, 2 parents. Now it's just 2 parents, and it might be a large house. You might be in big vehicles because you had to move the kids with their friends around and all of that stuff. Do you need the big life? Can you narrow that down somewhat? Can you, because, an extra 2 bedrooms in a house isn't just a little bit of extra cost. It's probably double the cost. Maintenance, all of those things. So reassessing about, okay, I actually do think I can see where I want to retire. I can see an end day, whether that's a contractual thing. Your company says you have to get out by age 63 or 65, or you're saying to yourself, I can't stick this out anymore. I want to get out of here as fast as possible. Create that image of where you want to be. And then you almost want to work backwards from there to say, if that's where I want to be, and that's what cost of living in today's money would be then, I need to be able to fund that. So now you start needing to do those retirement values and those calculations a little bit more seriously. And so getting an understanding of what you have today from an investment point of view is easy. What you need is the critical part here. So do proper calculations. We've done episodes on this. We will do lots more around how much you need. But either then go and pay for some good advice to figure out what that is that you need, or actually do the calculations yourself. And then your game plan now is, how much capital am I short? So if you're 50, you might still be short quite a bit of money. But remember, you've got some money saved. So you've got compounding working in your favor. It's not the end of the world if you don't have enough. Please don't go into depression. What it means is you might need to make some tougher decisions now, narrow lifestyle down a little bit, even though you're earning well. Focus on getting that retirement capital to the point where it needs to be, both in discretionary savings, retirement savings. You should be very hard on yourself now. This is the time to be ruthless around debt. At this stage of life, you might still have a mortgage left. That's okay, but you want to get it down as fast as possible. You want to slide into retirement with no debt. And that means you've got to be debt-free of the mortgage, but then working backwards, cars, personal loans, all of those. There shouldn't be a reason now to give yourself like a way out on a personal loan. You've got to get those out of your life and live according to the income that you've got. And debt's got to just be out of your situation here. And then making sure that mix of assets, my last point. How much have you got in shares? How much have you got in bonds? How much have you got in property? How much have you got in cash? I'm not talking about property as your home, I'm talking about the other things. Because your asset mix here is important. This is the asset mix you should probably have for the rest of your life. So a lot of people now would say, no, I'm 60 now. I want to retire at 65. I'm going to reduce my allocation to shares, get to the point where I've got 0 when I'm 65. That's a disaster. Please don't do that. If your allocation to shares is going to be 65 to 70%, that's what it is for the rest of life, because at age 65, you might live to age 100 at long time. So get your asset mix correct. Make sure that you tweak it and stay rigid on that, and then save like a mad person.
Yes, because now kids are out of the house, so there should be now cash flow opening up. So maxing out retirement contributions. This is now where retirement becomes real. So if you started your tax-free at 20, you probably have hit that 500,000 lifetime limit. So now it's focusing on the retirement funds, provident fund, pension fund, retirement annuity, and maybe now you can hit that 27.5% or 350,000 a year if you're on that high income brackets. Emergency fund, maintain that 3 to 6 months. I think 6 months is built it up to that point. So now it's out of the house, your expenses may drop. So now you can just adjust that a little bit. Pay off all debt. I absolutely agree with that. You don't want to have that in retirement, ideally. And moving towards that retirement date, let's say now you, for the majority of your life, have contributed to retirement funds. I'd also say it's a good idea to now build up that discretionary part as well, because if you hit retirement and you now need to decide, I'm taking a living annuity and I can only draw so much per month from that living annuity and it's fixed, it can only be revised once a year. You want to have accessible capital that you can use for that, occasional holiday, or if you want to buy a new car fund. So then building up fully flexible investments, either in rands or in offshore currency, depending on where you see yourself retiring or what you want to do, so that you have that nice balance of discretionary and retirement funds. Retirement funds having the tax benefits, discretionary funds having the flexibility, and stepping into that retirement phase, having a good balance of both, I think does help planning for in retirement much more than having to be stuck in a very rigid kind of like amount that you can take per month, especially for those once-off occasional expenses that comes, the curveballs that life is.
And maybe just and a little bit somber, but if you're getting to that point where you now have to retire and you just don't have enough, which describes a solid base of people, be prepared to make some fairly hard, radical decisions at that point. And that doesn't now mean that you take the risk of your investments and you escalate that risk to the roof to try and recover lost capital, because this is the time of life. You can't take excessive risk. You have to take appropriate risk. What it means is cut your costs now. This is the time to do it. You don't want to try and cut your costs when you're at age 80 and medical costs are the largest portion of your life's costs. So take the radical step now to say, well, we're going to move into a very small place. We're going to maybe move out of a city into a small town. When you live in a small town far away from lots and lots of people, small towns generally are safer. That means insurance costs are lower, rates are lower, all of those things. So you can make a fairly big adjustment to your lifestyle costs while still having a good lifestyle. And so, that's the time to do it. And then look at things that you can do that generate some money, because you've got time. What you've got is still a huge asset. You've got time and you've got experience. And you can be very valuable to other people, for example, who might have a lot of income but no time. You might be able to sell them your time and they get great value from that. So there might be some gigs that you can do or some kind of side jobs that you can, which now become your main hustle, just working a little bit. And whether that's a few days or a week or a few hours a day, it doesn't matter. It's nice to have purpose anyway and nice to have the stimulation. But don't look at this and say, I give up. You've got time and experience. And, if your only skill is that you can drive and you're a safe driver, that has value for people. So just understand that you can give people who have no time, you can sell them your time so that they get leisure time, for example. There are things that you can do. Don't give up now. Just be a little bit creative. Spend a bit of time on the internet. Ask ChatGPT, what can I do when I'm retired and I've got these skills? How can I make some extra money? Ask your friends. So there are things that you can do. And I think be a little bit proactive in that stage of life.
Absolutely. And that concludes our series on investment vehicles. So hopefully now these case studies gave you an idea of which investment vehicle will play its part. And sometimes it's combining all of them, but sometimes it's keeping it very simple and just focusing on one or two. I think now that the next phase after that is at post 65, because now the investment vehicles also changes. So I think what we can do next time, the spin-off of this series is maybe focusing on post-retirement. What investment vehicles do we get there? And then maybe do a case study or two there as well. If you guys want to see something like that, please let us know in the comments and we can make it happen. But thank you so much for tuning in to this series. Again, we've got the first episode on retirement funds, second one on tax-free savings, third one discretionary and endowments, and today the case study. So if this is the first time that you see the video, go make sure you watch the other three as well so that you get the full picture and hopefully receive value for spending your time with us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you to Sealand for keeping us warm. We appreciate it. And thank you to watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Honest Money podcast is brought to you by Prescient Investment Management. We consider everything to give you the advantage. It's the future of investing. Prescient Investment Management is an authorized FSP.